Welcome to See You at USC. I'm your Friday night host, Mackie Kravitz. And tonight we have two authors joining us tonight. Their names are Teresa Nguyen and Eric Roth. It's going to be a great episode, so be sure to stay tuned. Welcome back to See You at USC. I am joined now by Teresa Nguyen and Eric Roth. Thank you so much for being here. And you guys are the co-authors of Compelling Conversations Vietnam, which is coming out at the end of this month. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I want to start off this interview by asking, how did you guys get inspired with teaching, and where did you kind of find your start?
Do you want to? Well, for me, I just kind of fell into it. I went to UCI, and they had this program where you could visit international students. Like, we have an extension program there, and so I had a lot of international students there. So I just went there, and then afterwards, I graduated early, so I didn't know what to do. And then my friend was like, "Hey, come join the linguistics program at Cal State Long Beach for your master's." And I said, "Okay." And so I went, and then after that, I just went teaching abroad, country hopping, and then when I came back, I guess I went back into teaching ESL.
Wow.
So it just kind of all smoothly integrated itself.
Can I ask a quick question? Because a lot of our viewers might not know what linguistics is. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. So linguistics is studying language acquisition, how people acquire language, anything having to do with language, and like and how we process it within ourselves. Yeah.
And you, Eric?
I come from a family of teachers. And when I first moved to New York City, I needed a job and taught in inner city high school, and that was a great experience, actually. So I've had the pleasure of teaching in urban high schools and very nice universities like USC, and community colleges like Santa Monica College.
Wow. And how have those experiences kind of influenced you to write this book and other literature?
It's a good question. All the books celebrate conversation and people being people. And there's this side of me that thinks that we've gotten very close relationships with our technologies and our devices, and perhaps families aren't as strong, and perhaps personal relationships aren't as strong. I think conversation is one of those things that can make relationships stronger and better. And all of the books, the Compelling Conversations series, which has 5 different versions now, are all celebrations of conversation in different facets.
Interesting you bring that up, that technology influences the way we view the world today, like so heavily now. How do you pose solutions to fix that and keep people more connected through conversation rather than their devices?
Well, I think that's one of the things that we love about our book, is that it integrates both. So definitely the book focuses on conversations. It has really great topics, and they're all very timeless topics. But in addition, we've added a lot of technological aspects to it so that students can also tap into that. So, for example, we have Kahoot on there, and Quizlet, which are apps that they can download, and they can self-study some of the vocabulary that we've built or integrated into the text. And so definitely it has that conversation aspect, but definitely it keeps the student engaged through this technological aspect that they're so in tuned, or that's so part of their nature.
Yeah. So this book is a textbook considered for education, but would you consider that anyone could read it and just kind of learn about the culture of Vietnam? Or what kind of things do you want to get out of people?
I actually think it's the reverse, and that our target audience is people, Vietnamese, who want to learn English. So there's more about American culture and Western culture, if you will. However, there is sometimes when we compare and contrast, one learns. But the starting assumption may not be that one is starting in the United States. However, I want to go back to your great question about technology. And I think technology can both bring us together, and we see it when we have a birthday and we have 400 people wish us happy birthday or whatever.
On Facebook.
Facebook.
All the notifications.
And on the other hand, what's the definition of a friend? I think that there's been a real shift and altering of relationships through technology, and it can both intensify. There's a positive side, but there is a shadow side too. And I think that sometimes people ask me, well, what do you think is a safe choice for a career in 10 years, 20 years, 40 years? I have no idea. I don't really think anybody knows what we're going to be studying or needing to know in 30 years. But I do think that we're going to be people. And even if we're just having conversations, worker to worker or consumer to merchant, conversation is going to be there. And hopefully in our real personal human relationships. So I want to celebrate conversation and its possibilities.
Yeah, I think we all should. That's why we're here.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and we are being broadcast, which is the other side of the technology. It's not like one kind of technology is inherently unhealthy, and others are. The old joke about before atomic bomb, before television, the 2 world wars. After television, no world wars.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's great that you guys are going there to Vietnam and teaching English and creating this kind of cross connectivity. Can you tell us kind of your experiences there and what inspired this book?
Sure. So we both were very fortunate. We had the opportunity to go back to Vietnam and teach. I was there for about a year, teaching at a language center, one of the most popular one at ILA. And while I was there, I actually went to one of the bookstores there called Fahasa, and it had actually Eric's first book, which is Compelling Conversations 1. Yes. Yes, and I actually saw that. And then coincidentally, I met him at a conference, so a couple years later I came back to the States and we went to a teachers conference.
Here at USC?
Yes. And Eric was sitting there with these books and I was like, wait, why does this book look so familiar?
Oh wow, that's so funny. What a coincidence.
Yes, and so that's when I was like, oh my gosh, so I put a name to a book.
A face to a book, a name to a book.
Yes, a name to a book, because I saw the name. I just didn't know who, so I put a name to a book to a face, I guess you can say all. And then I guess just last summer we met again, or last year we met again at another international teacher conference that we were both presenting at, and I said, you know what, and I gave him an idea. I was like, I think I love this book. It's very close to me because I'm Vietnamese, and so I was like, do you want to collaborate and do a second version? And then here we are.
Wow, and that was only a year ago?
Yeah, less than a year ago.
Less than a year ago.
Yeah, it was actually earlier this year.
And I have to say, I was like, we could make this minor change and this minor update, and Teresa has vision. She's like, no, we could do da 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 da.
Yeah, that was kind of our inside joke. Because in the beginning, when I first approached him, he thought it was more like just minor edits. You know what I mean? Like, oh, just a little dot. I'm like, no, Eric, no.
Let me tell this one.
Yes, definitely. And so I guess we added a lot of different things to it, which has made it, I believe, a very strong textbook. And
Absolutely.
The great thing and a benefit of, or like a positive aspect about this book is that it has a lot of different things that the learner can do on his or her own. Definitely it's like self-learner centered. And I think that's both of our teaching philosophy. Like that, yeah, we are faculty and we want to guide our students, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we want our students to be self-learners, and this book is great in that aspect because it has different aspects like vocabulary, pronunciation, culture, different things that the student can just kind of self-learn and explore on his or her own without any guidance, actually.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
We want people to be autotelic, self-directed.
Yeah, I think it's incredible that you guys can create a book with such esteemed faculty and professionals, and it's so affordable for the public.
Yes.
Yes.
We're very pleased with that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
One of my pet peeves is the price of textbooks. I mean, at USC, we're very privileged and very lucky, and but I think that it's easy to lose perspective too. And the cost of textbooks should be reasonable and affordable. And even in my classrooms here, I don't want students to spend more than $30 for a book. I just don't. So.
I think a lot of students would agree with that philosophy.
Very ideal. Very
I
ideal.
know I've had language classes, and my books have been upwards of $200 just
Definitely. Yeah.
per semester, because you have to take the certain levels. So
I thought you were going to say per book.
well,
Sometimes
yeah, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is a big issue, and I see that you guys are kind of addressing that with this book.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's an affordable book, and we're pleased. We just think that everything should be student focused. And in fact, one of the things that we share is a desire for, in our classrooms, students should be talking 70, 80, 85% of the time. There's a lot of learning by doing and making good mistakes and helping people take risk. And then, you can show them the videotape of the good mistakes.
I mean, practice does make perfect, so.
Yes.
Or at least progress.
So Teresa talked about her experiences with Vietnam. Eric, have you had any?
Well, I have. I went there on the 25th anniversary in 2000 of the new government, and my wife was doing a story for Marketplace Radio, and so I tagged along, and I wrote a short feature for Jewish Journal at the time on it. But then we came back, and then fast forward 9 years, and someone who appreciated my original book, the Compelling Conversations book, called me and said that she had gone back to Vietnam and she was going to be an assistant principal at a high school, private high school, and wanted me to come out and kind of do an assessment of their language program. So I went for a couple of weeks, interviewed all their graduating seniors, interviewed their faculty, wrote up a little report, and they liked it, and then said, can you come back and run our summer program, please? So that's what I did.
So you spent an entire summer there?
I did.
Wow.
And so it was nice as an educator to be able to hire faculty and to be able to see a curriculum implemented and things like that. So it was a very nice experience, but it's very hard to leave USC. And so I came back to USC.
I can relate.
The first version for Vietnam came out of that, and trying to kind of synthesize some things that I had learned from that experience. And it was a mixed blessing. I think she had a much better experience than I did. I had a kind of an ambivalent experience, and sometimes we try to make, cliche goes lemonade out of lemons. So that's what we did.
Well, I think Teresa's experience must have aided your second edition so much with the background culture, and it sounds like a wonderful book, and I cannot wait to talk more about it soon after the commercial break. Stick with us, and we will be back to talk more about their new book and their experiences that they've had in Vietnam. Stay tuned.
Thank you guys for joining us on today's first episode of Balance.
Welcome back to See You at USC. I'm joined by authors Teresa Nguyen and Eric Roth. And Eric, you actually created this whole series of compelling conversations. So can you tell us more about the whole series and obviously Teresa's input on the Vietnam edition?
Well, I taught a class for 3 years at Santa Monica Community College on conversation. And I had many students that would just keep registering over and over and over again. So that was wonderful. I had a couple of many young students, but I have two elderly women who are both doctors, one from Iran in her mid-80s. She was one of the first 4 women doctors to graduate from Iran, and she was quite a personality and a wonderful character. And then a woman who was in her mid-80s from the former Soviet Union and run a research lab at Moscow State University, and she also had kind of a wonderful sense of humor. And basically, I just kind of sat back and let the two of them talk and lead. But it was, the class had this wonderful intergenerational aspect. And it was, yes, we learned a lot of English, we learned a lot of vocabulary, but the format was everyone would pick a topic, and then everybody would bring in 3 questions on that topic, and bring in either a quotation or bring in a proverb. And it was just fantastic. When that class ended, then I wanted to pull together that material. And I wasn't sure what my next job was going to be, and I thought I was going to be teaching here at USC, but it wasn't guaranteed. So this kept me kind of, productive and focused. And anyway, I joined USC, and then out of that came the original book. And that, we make a lot of decisions. That was a good decision, and introduced me to a lot of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, like Teresa. And then, so the Vietnam book came out, and then I thought, well, actually, I'm much more interested in helping immigrants and refugees to the United States. I had run a citizenship center, an adult education center in the 90s. And so that was this book that came out for intermediate. And I did get some good feedback and criticism on the initial one. And so I tried to be a little more targeted. Then another friend who came back from Japan, he taught there for 10 years, met him, and he was, Eric, I'd like to do one for Japan. And I was, okay, sure, let's talk.
Wow.
So that was the one for Japan. And then, like Teresa said, then, initially I was like, Vietnam's an interesting situation, and there's some peculiar difficulties in successfully publishing for Vietnam. But she is very persistent. And I like the idea of trying to find different ways of, the students in our classes have taken English for 6, 8, 10, sometimes 12 years.
Wow.
And they don't always feel comfortable talking beyond their narrow area of specialty.
Like the very basics that are taught.
Very basics. And in fact, there's a side of me that thinks that the adult education ESL system is rather, it's not student focused on 100 levels. But one is that it gives them enough English that they can listen and work flipping burgers, or work as a gardener, or maybe inside a home. But it doesn't give them enough English that they can really take control of their own life and direct. And so we'd like to help more people be able to have more conversations that matter. And that are worth having in English. And part of that's vocabulary, but some of it is also just, learning simple techniques to ask follow-up questions and asking for clarification. So,
can you give us some examples of what a person might see in this book, or?
Sure. Definitely. So the book is very organized. So each chapter, it's very thematic. So the chapters are divided by different themes. Just to piggyback of what Eric was saying. So definitely a lot of students, usually when they want to do conversation, they only talk about what they know. And so this book is divided into themes so that students are exposed to these different topics. And so they have variation when they have conversations with others. So this book opens up with a warmer, kind of like an activity to get their brain activated excited and interested in that conversation or in that theme that we're introducing that chapter. And then after that, we introduce some vocabulary words. Now, this edition is special in the sense that not only are the words, they're part of the AWL list, which is the academic word list, which is like the top 500 words that you need to know when you enter the university.
How to introduce yourself, food, those types of subjects.
Things like that. These are like hot words. Hot words that are used in the university. That's the AWL list. So it has those words. It has words that we feel is confident. But a special thing about it is that for the pronunciation, I actually wrote Vietnamese phonemes below it so that Vietnamese learners, when they read it, they can actually kind of, they can read it like it's Vietnamese, but it's really, they're saying like an English word. That way it just kind of shows that, or it helps them have an accurate pronunciation of that English word. Yeah, so that's the special edition that we have. Then we have, after that, we have definitions, example sentences, and then we have quotations, proverbs, that creates critical thinking as well as conversation, right? And then it moves on.
And just on the proverbs and quotations from multiple perspectives, because a lot of them are essentially serving as models. And we're trying to not direct people to think this way or that way, but rather to look at a range of possibilities. And these are all well-spoken, articulate, vivid examples of language.
And we specifically wanted quotations and proverbs because there are so many explanations. There's like really no one interpretation. There's just
such great conversation starters. And I mean, that's the title of your book, right?
Yes, compelling conversations. And so we hope that's what it would kind of do. And a new element to the textbook is the pronunciation corner, where we focus on specific pronunciation errors that our Vietnamese students tend to make.
Good mistakes.
Yeah, good mistakes. That definitely can help them improve to have a more clear and natural speech. And another aspect we brought is the culture corner, which we feel is essential. So this is beneficial for students who are currently in America because it helps them acculturate into the American culture. But if they are abroad, it helps them, to better assimilate, to better communicate with foreigners or Westerners, if you want to say. And so I love those little culture tips.
You did a great job on this. And then I like the search and shares, where everyone goes out and finds something on a topic of interest. Let's say, go find a movie review. You like movies, go find IMDb, summarize it. We've got a little worksheet. Then we come back and work in small groups of 3 or 4 students, talk about it. Everyone gives their review. Everybody asks a question. And now let's repeat it one more time. And then let's repeat it one more time. And each time we're repeating, we're asking you to incorporate the information that you had to give in answers to the last one. So the 4th time that you give your movie review, it's going to be much better than the first time you gave your movie review. And it's good to have certain topics in your back pocket. So we like the element of people being self-directed and be given a lot of practice, and we think that people gain both competency and confidence.
Confidence is a big theme in this. You said you have pronunciation sections in this book, which I feel like that's not very common, because I feel like when you're learning a new language, people get shy and they get embarrassed to say it because they're saying it wrong, and that ties down their public speaking. And I know that you teach public speaking, both of you as English teachers. So how did that background in public speaking translate into the book?
Well, definitely we incorporate it into the textbook. A lot of textbooks out there that we've looked at, it's very focused. It's either like on grammar only, or on oral language, or on composition, reading.
Or just only on articulation. And the problem with that is it's only in isolation, and it's kind of drill and kill. So you need to kind of recenter that within a meaningful context, so that you have a reason to communicate. And you're not just making sounds in isolation. She did a wonderful job on that.
Thank you. And I think that's what's great, because we've been teaching for so long that we know that these skills aren't separate. They're all integrated some way. And so we've brought that into the textbook, because it's not simply just a conversation book, a pronunciation book, a culture book, or something. It's a culmination of different things. And we're glad that we can incorporate that, especially for our for public speaking. Like, we both taught public speaking. We do a lot of presentations on our own, and we feel that to have great conversations, it includes like different aspects. It's like, are you culturally on topic? Are you culturally aware of the things around you? Do you have the right pronunciation so that it's clear and natural, people understand you? So it's a combination of different things, and I think we just kind of put it all together and put in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Culturally, though, what are the similarities and differences between Vietnamese and American culture?
I'm going to let you take this.
Well, the great thing with this book is that we do introduce a lot of different aspects of American culture. And we actually ask the students to analyze themselves and from their own experiences, how is Vietnamese culture different or similar compared to American culture? Definitely we have a lot of similarities and a lot of differences.
Talk about the family, the questions of titles,
The titles.
of how you refer to different people when we did the families. I forget to say. Anyway, the question of what do you call someone when you meet them, and that was a nice section.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about now.
Sorry,
I just kind of blanked out there for a moment. I was like, wait a second. Yeah, just because we had so many sections. Yeah, I think one of the differences that he wanted to bring about is with Vietnamese culture, it's a very like hierarchical culture where if I meet someone, depending on their age and my relationship to them, I would have so many different titles for them to address them, right? Like if I meet someone younger, I have a different name, but if they're younger in a male, is different. If they're younger in a female, is different. Or if they're older, but how much older, like a little bit older or like a lot older, we all have different titles, and if they're male and female, right? So you can tell by the confusion. So that was one of the things that I struggled with because I learned Vietnamese later on in life. I learned it when I was in college. So that was one of the things that confused me. But here in America, we just have Mr., Mrs., and Ms.
My final question would be, what advice would you give students who want to try to learn to be bilingual?
Definitely, there are 3 things, I guess, that I would say. So 3 tips that I would give. One is expose yourself to that language. There's that good quote, like, language, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's definitely true. I've tried to, being a linguist, we have to learn different languages, and I've learned a lot of different languages, but once I don't use it, I forget it. So definitely expose yourself to it. That's the first one. The second one is stick to karaoke. It's like the number one, I cannot tell you how beneficial karaoke is, because 1, it's really great with pronunciation. 2, it's very good with intonation, right? Having this. And 3rd, it helps you read really quick. Like for me, I have problems like reading, like it takes me a long time, but karaoke, you have to read so fast or else the music is gone, right? And so you can't leave karaoke, right? And 3rd is definitely vocabulary building. I think without vocabulary, it's kind of impossible for you to. I think that's like the foundation of learning another language.
Great. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It was so great to learn all this information. And be sure to watch See You at USC every weeknight at 6:30 here on Trojan Vision. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Sorry, we had to wrap up.
That was great. That was fantastic.
I wanted to get like the student question.
For watching Trojan Vision. For more of your favorite shows, check us out at trojanvision.com and like us on Facebook.